I'm Sir Flowbojan Thunderhammer.
And I'm Teflon Frosthammer.
And I'm Cabbage Tidehammer.
And this
is
WAK.
If Amtgard knighthood means anything, you can't knife a motherfucker and keep it.
And the thing that people need to understand essentially about arts and sciences events is that your scores don't matter.
Do you want a black phoenix or a white phoenix?
Jeez, language, man. We're on a
nice.
freaking podcast, for fuck's sake.
Mind-blowing experience, right?
Hello, everyone, and welcome to WAK, where we discuss topics important to the Amtgard community at large and talk with interesting people from around the foam fighting world. This week we are continuing our series, and I'm back, by the way.
Yeah.
Hello.
The whole crew is here. We've got Flo, we've got Teflon, and we've got myself. We're happy to all be back in the studio. We actually got some new lighting as well. New camera should be set up by next week, maybe.
Yep.
But the lighting alone is making a huge difference. Loving the way I look. And Teflon, the top of your head is not as shiny as it normally is either.
Yeah, we got a little bit of shine right here. We got a little bit going on.
Right, so this should mark episode 4 of our What the Hell Even Is Amtgard series. We are covering the who, what, when, where, why, and a few other things of Amtgard. This is a newbie-centric series, so if you have new people at your park, or if you have friends that you're trying to get into Amtgard, this is the perfect way to get them started. As always, we'll do audience corrections at the top of the episode. I actually think for this one, we don't have anything to address.
Oh, huh.
Yeah.
It can't be because we didn't fuck up.
We probably did.
No one's noticed yet.
Yeah, okay.
So, well, there is one audience correction. Somebody noted that in the last episode, I said caught in 4K, and then there was no video. That was another one we were shooting out of my office where I was trying to use my iPhone to film, and it ate the footage. I don't know what happened. So
yeah,
and we sort of shot the episode so quick we didn't have time to. Your mouse dead?
Yeah, no.
All right.
There we go. Okay.
But anyway, yeah, you missed some footage of me spilling water on myself, so I hate that you missed that, but you missed it. Today, we are covering the who of Amtgard. So that is going to be the various positions that make up Amtgard, local leadership, crap positions at events, kingdom leadership, miscellaneous leadership. So that's things like Amtgard International and the AIBOD.
Mm-hmm.
And then also a what you can do to help. That's as a newbie, as an experienced player, somewhere in the middle. And if we have time, we'll talk about the why of Amtgard. That's why do you play, why you might prefer it over another game, that kind of thing.
I know that was a big one for you for a very long time. Asking a lot of our guests over our sword month, over our belt months, not just sword month, about the why. Yeah,
and realistically, Sir Michael gave it to us in a really concise way. He said Amtgard was just what was around, and there's nothing wrong with that. So Teflon, why don't you introduce yourself, because you're wearing a different outfit for the day and people might not recognize you?
Hi, I'm Teflon.
Perfect. Teflon couldn't be here today. He's got a new job and he's got a weird schedule, so we're having someone fill in.
I'm Baron Vidalia. I'm Cabbage's fiance.
You can't introduce yourself like that. Like that's.
Let me try. I'm Baron Vidalia, and I do the WAP podcast
yeah,
that you all listen to and love.
You might have heard her from another podcast, our literal sister podcast that we have as part of the show.
I'm also a really cool person who went to Dragon's Hollow.
I draw the podcast really cool heads. I do the little doodles.
Yeah, those are fantastic. We're hoping to put those on some merch soon-ish.
That'd be really cool.
If I ever get around to setting up a Teespring or a Redbubble or whatever.
I know how to do that.
Oh, why don't you do that? Hey, because I just realized it, and because we're all scrambled today, make sure to turn off the AC so it doesn't keep buzzing throughout the rest of the episode. Because it just stopped, and I realized how distinct it was. So, the who of Amtgard, obviously, Amtgard is nothing but the people who play the game. So, really what we got to look at here is who's making the things happen. Let's start at a local park level, because if you are a new player showing up for the first time, you're going to be interacting with some of these people first. So, at a local park, and in most corporas, a local park is set up to mirror a kingdom's structure with the roles that it comprises. Comprises. So you're going to have a local guildmaster of reeves. Anybody want to vamp on what that person does?
They do the rules.
Thank God you're here. You're going to have a local prime minister. Don't tell us what that is. Let the knight who got his belt for being a prime minister tell us what that is.
Prime Minister is going to take care of all of the funding and finances for the park. They're also the person that signs everyone in every week. So one of the first things you'll do as a new person to the park is you'll find the Prime Minister and go ahead and get your name signed in. This is how we keep track of records, and records are how you level up all of the various classes in Amtgard.
Correct. And depending on how your park is set up, they may also provide you with a waiver to sign, and they should have copies of the rule book as well. Prime Minister has a fair amount of responsibility even at local level. They are, typically keeping the books, making sure everything is legit, and having that stuff ready for players.
Mm-hmm.
They also do dues and coffers.
Yeah, that's what we mean by collecting the money and keeping all of that in order.
Mm-hmm.
So you'll have Guildmaster of Reeves, Prime Minister, you'll have a champion.
This one's you.
I got to do one. We're doing a round robin.
Yeah, we're doing a thing.
Right. So the champion is, and we've said this before, at a local level, probably one of the most impactful positions. They are in charge of a lot of things. They're in charge of the lost and found if somebody loses something. They are in charge of safety and weapons. They share that responsibility with the GMR, the Guildmaster of Reeves, but they'll check weapons. The champion also is the person who designs and decides the games that you'll be playing that day. So champions can have a huge impact at your local park. If you have shown up and had a great time, at your first day or whatever, you really liked that game, that's the champion's doing 9 times out of 10. Next, you're going to have, what did I do? PM, GMR, champion. You're going to have, go ahead.
Regent,
right. So what is the regent going to do?
They do arts and sciences.
Right. And at a local level, this is things like organizing craft nights, helping people with projects, posting, new ideas or new things that they've come up with.
Local ANS tournaments.
Yeah, local ANS tournaments for sure. And then you'll have the monarch, lowercase m, monarch.
And this is going to be the person that is the de facto leader of the park. The monarch is going to be the one that is able to hand out awards. They will hand these awards out in tandem with the regent. Usually the regent handles the more arts and science awards and the monarch will handle others, but there's a little bit of crossover in the awards that they can give out. They will also be the one that handles any out-of-game situations that come up. Not that any of us ever want this, but if there's any kind of conflict at the park or anything like that, they would be the ones to handle it. Often, your monarch is also one of the ones that will go up and talk to new people. So, when you have new people come up, the monarch very likely is one of the people that came up and said, "Hi, my name's so-and-so. This is Amtgard. You want to fight with us?"
Yeah. Monarch is usually the most sociable nerd. That's usually going to be the person that introduces themselves. They also handle the, like Flo had sort of alluded to, they handle some of the dirty work. That's bans and things like that. And they also represent the park to the wider community. So posting on Facebook, when you organize these events, when you're talking with people, trying to set up something at a con, your monarch should be reaching out to those people. Now, the regent also should share in this, and we'll talk about the differences at higher levels, at kingdom level, but regent can help out with this as well.
Monarch will also sit on the Circle of Monarchs, so they'll be talking to all the other park monarchs and kind of communicating and advocating for the needs of your park at the kingdom level. That's
correct. Now, different kingdoms, and we say this in every episode, different kingdoms, different corporas, may have a slightly different interpretation of the Circle of Monarchs. We know some areas have the Council of Crowns.
Some areas that has their Circle of Monarchs is very powerful.
Yeah, so what your Circle of Monarchs can do and how it's structured will vary. Again, we're speaking specifically for the South. That's Winter's Edge, and in a lot of cases, Neverwinter. Mm-hmm. But there's similarity across the board, just with the local responsibilities that they have. Now, there's a few other things. These roles have a bit of interplay between them. Specifically with the regent, we kind of glossed over regent really quickly. But the regent is also the next in line. If the monarch, for whatever reason, cannot finish their term, the regent is the person who the crown passes to next. And there is a whole order of succession. Again, maybe different depending on your kingdom. Check your corpora. But these roles all have a way of playing together that kind of divvies things up in a way that hopefully makes for even responsibilities. Sorry, prime ministers. But that's how those are meant to be structured.
One last thing before we move on.
Yeah.
If you are a monarch, you also get a cool name depending on how big your park is. So, like, if you are a shire, the monarch would be a sheriff. If you are a barony, your monarch is a baron. If you're a duchy, your monarch is a duke, and so forth. I just think that's fun.
So, actually, this is an important topic to delve into because this will be a question that we get if we don't. There are titles that share similar names. You do not become a baron when you step down as the monarch of a barony. You may become a baronet, and that depends again on how your corps is structured. There are different ways of earning those awards. They are loosely related to serving in those positions, but not directly.
Yeah, it's important to denote that there is an actual award, an actual title that you can be granted that is the title of Baron, which means even when you're no longer in office, you can still be Baron Vidalia.
Right.
And Vidalia is currently the Baron of Radiant Valley, which means she is Baroness Vidalia or Baron Vidalia. Do you have all of the male?
Yeah, I took
names?
the male titles.
Yeah,
Stinkman My Knight took all of the female titles.
Yeah.
He
Just have fun with it.
Dame Stinkfoot. I think that this is very important to cover before we move on as well, and that is, so we're talking specifically on this local level. How does this affect you? You're going out to the park and having fun, and your weekly interactions. What do all of these offices mean? The very short answer to that is nothing. They're not going to change the way that you interact with anybody at your park, or at least they should not. The purpose of these roles is to provide a specific function for the park, as you have probably figured out by now, and to be able to work together and communicate to make the park more fun for all of its members. If you're wanting to do fun things and you're not in one of those offices, don't think this is a situation where it's like, oh, I just have to wait and maybe I'll get into the office next time.
Never have I served in one of those positions and not needed help.
Absolutely.
If you see your champion struggling, if you see ways that they can improve, that's the person you got to go talk to. If you're seeing battle games that are not getting a lot of engagement, or if you see ways that they could be improved, the person you need to talk to is the champion. If you want to organize a crafting night, right? If you want to learn how to make a tunic, if you want to get some of yourself and some of your new friends geared up with tunics and whatever else, you talk to the regent, and you organize a crafting night, right? If you have a problem with a player, a personal issue, you talk to the monarch. So this is
if you want to make an award recommendation, you go to the regent or the monarch and say, hey, I just now saw this person do this thing today and it was super cool. Is there something that we can give them for that?
Yeah, absolutely. That's so much better than the thing I said. I came at it so negatively, but you're right. In a more positive light, and hopefully this is happening more frequently, you're offering award recommendations. Yeah. If you want to get your dues paid, right, you go talk to the PM.
Yep.
If you have a question about, like, hey, how did that spell work or what's going on there, if you need a read for a game, that's your GMR. So these roles are all defined so that you as a new player know who your point of contact is if you need something. And don't hesitate. These people, we're volunteers. Everyone here is a volunteer. No one is paid for what they do. So, treat them nicely. But if you need something, that's exactly why they volunteer. They want to help you with that thing.
And one more thing that I thought of, too, that maybe, depending on what size park you have, Vidalia was mentioning earlier, I think we're going to get into the different park sizes here in a second.
Vidalia? That's Teflon.
Sorry, Teflon.
Hi, I'm Teflon.
Who was mentioning a moment ago. There's different size parks. We've covered that a little bit in other episodes before, too. But one important thing, especially when we're looking at shires, which is these are decided by the number of people that are out every single week, and shire would be the lowest. There is a chance that not all of these offices will be filled. As an example, GMR is one of those that, if you don't have enough people, is sometimes a shared position with champion. So champion and GMR would be the same person. Ideally, you have them as different people, but that doesn't always work out because you don't always have enough people in leadership doing that. I have seen smaller parks where they didn't have a regent because they just didn't have enough people, or they didn't have someone that was interested in doing it that time, and that responsibility then becomes shared with the monarch. So the monarch is the monarch in the region. Again, we are presenting a situation where it's not ideal, but it absolutely happens. So don't be surprised if you come out and your park doesn't have all of these positions filled. And if it's something that you're interested in trying out, talk to your park about picking up one of the positions. I'm sure that they would love the help.
Yeah, I think it might have been our second episode ever where we had Oz on.
Yeah.
Oz is currently, at the time of recording this, Oz is currently the Kingdom level champion for Winter's Edge. We'll talk about that in a moment. But Oz, in his episode...
was this his first week?
Yeah, I think it was first day. He said he was champion first day. That was in our old intro roll before we got more recordings. I can go pull it and see, but if you listen to an older episode, it's definitely in there where I think he said you walk out champion day one.
Yeah, that's right.
So if you see a need and you're really eager to fill a need, you can certainly do that. I would say, maybe learn a little bit about the game beforehand, but if you want to help, we're never overly burdened with volunteers.
Speaking of, some larger parks have additional offices, like assistants to the main position, such as scribe. And we'll get probably more into that at the kingdom level.
Right.
But there are also assistant roles if you don't want to fill a major office or if you're looking to shadow and learn.
Then I was going to say, those are specifically designed for people who want to learn. So you're right. Prime ministers can take scribes. Those help them with their job, and it's really like sit with me and watch how I do this kind of thing. Mm-hmm. So there's one of those for every position. I kind of hinted at it. Do we want to move up to kingdom level?
Yeah, just one last thing before we do that. We've said that a lot. There's one more thing.
One more thing. What is that?
Jackie Chan Adventures.
Yeah, okay.
Don't quote cartoons to me.
Don't quote the old magics to me, witch.
There's several different levels that your park may be a part of. You could be a shire to begin with, a barony. Teflon mentioned these earlier. You go from a barony up to a duchy, from a duchy to a
Grand Duchy sometimes.
Grand Duchy.
Depending on your kingdom's corpora.
Yeah, again, this is all subject to the kingdom corpora. Different kingdoms do it different way. They shouldn't, by the way.
Yeah, Omni corpora win.
And then you can go all the way up to a principality, again, depending on how your kingdom's corpora is structured. And then the amount of awards that you can give, that the monarch and the regent can give, is also based on the size of your park there.
Yeah, so that is the big distinction. The size of your park determines its title, and the title of your park determines the level of awards you can give out. So here in the South, here in Winter's Edge, if you are a shire or a freehold, you can award up to 2nd level awards. If you are a barony, you can award up to 5th level awards. Yeah, exactly. If you are a duchy, you can award up to 7th level awards. And then I don't think there's a distinction between duchy and
Grand Duchy is 8.
Is it? Is it for one more? Okay. And then beyond that, you're applying
Duchy
to the
might
kingdom.
be 8. Leave in the comments if you're a part of a duchy in Winter's Edge.
It's 7.
So just Dragon's Hollow. Holler at us, I guess.
Sylvan Glade is also a duchy.
Yeah.
Oh, I thought that. Yeah, okay. Good job. I
Thank
thought it
you,
was
Sylvan
7.
Glade listeners.
I thought it was 7 also. Either way, that is going to be the distinction between those. So if you are joining and you're like, oh, I don't want to be in a shire, know that it makes no difference in terms of what you're allowed to do or what you're allowed to play. It does mean if you want higher level awards, it has to be applied for at the kingdom level. But
by the way, it only takes 7 seconds for you to smash that like button, click subscribe. It really does help with the algorithm that we don't actually play into at all because we're not monetized, because we cuss like fucking sailors on this podcast. But Vidalia, if she was here, would say that she's been telling me to promote that more. And so, yeah, we really do appreciate it if you would subscribe. It makes us feel better when
how
we
do
see
you find the time for these? Is that what your brain is doing in the background while we're talking? Is you're just like, how do I segue this into a plug?
Oh, no, sir. This is just riff. This is pure riff.
It's amazing. Okay. Any more?
Kingdom.
Yeah, okay. Kingdom level positions, or do we have one more thing? All right, kingdom level positions. So I talked about Oz currently being our kingdom level champion, so let's talk about that first. Kingdom level champion is not in charge of organizing all of the games at your local park. Kingdom level champion handles the larger games at kingdom level events. They are usually the warcrat, although that's not necessarily a requirement in some cases. The warcrat is the person at kingdom level events who decides all of the games, the quests, the sort of fighting activities for the day.
Tournaments.
Phoenix League, jugging, ditching.
No jugging.
Notice me, senpai. Sorry, I was headed that way anyway.
I think that we can actually get sued for that one-liner.
No, that's fine. If Onyx the Fortuitous wants to get on our podcast and talk about Amtgard with us, I would be jacked.
Yeah.
Are you kidding me? If we get his attention off of that, I'm here for it.
Onyx, it does not matter that you know nothing about Amtgard. In fact, it makes it better.
He probably does. We should
You
find
think
out.
he plays? What class does...
Wizard.
Without hesitation, he plays wizard. Okay, we're getting sidetracked. So Kingdom level champion, games at Kingdom level events, tournaments at Kingdom level events, usually Warcrat. Am I leaving anything out of that?
Lost and found. I mean, other minor things. But again, this can change based on the kingdom that you're in and how they handle it.
Keeping up with the kingdom...
Armory,
Yeah.
treasury, or not treasury, armory, the kingdom's assets, physical.
So if your kingdom has monster garb or props or something like that, as some kingdoms do, the champion is usually the one that is in charge of keeping track of that, making sure that it gets to the event so you can do cool quests and stuff like that.
Checking weapons at kingdom level events.
Yep. In conjunction usually with the GMR.
Again, yeah.
Yep.
Let's talk about GMR then. Kingdom level GMR. In most cases that I've seen, they are your kingdom's rules representative. So they are communicating with the wider Amtgard community at large, recommending rules changes, reviewing them, passing them along to the kingdom, getting feedback. Sometimes the rules representative is a separate position, but at least here in the South, here in Winter's Edge, it is shared with the GMR. Beyond that, for any official rules clarifications at the highest level within your kingdom, that goes to the GMR.
Since I'm Teflon, I think I should speak on the
Oh
GMR
my God! Yeah,
position.
I was
since
totally
I am
tramping all over you.
from
Right.
the kingdom.
As the GMR, tell us how that works.
Wait, what?
Hey, this wig is working for you. I don't know if we
It's
mentioned
been a
it
while
earlier.
since I've seen you in hair, dude. Yeah.
Yeah, it's working for you, man.
How the rules representative works, or
You tell me. You're the one that's doing the position.
absolutely, I am.
You threw yourself under the bus, dumbass.
There's a Facebook group, and I read it and post there.
That's mean.
So some other things that your GMR may do, there is actually, I wish I could remember the name of it, but there is a group that specifically deals with rules clarification stuff. Somewhere where
Yes.
people can post, hey, I'm repeating exactly what you said.
This is what I was about to say before Jeff interrupted me.
This is somewhere where you can have this weird situation where nobody was mad at the park or anything. It was just these two different abilities conflicted in a way that the park couldn't settle. So, by the way, if you are ever in a situation where you're in a battle game and something comes up, don't start an argument out of it. Find the most amicable way to settle it. Okay, let's take this interpretation where I don't get exactly what I want and you don't get exactly what you want, and we move on and have fun with the battle game. And then take it to this group, which hopefully will link. I don't know the name of it, so I can't tell you.
It's Amtgard Rules Clarifications. I believe that is the official name.
There you go. And you can let them know there, hey, this weird situation happened. What do you guys think? And other GMRs will weigh in. The AIBOD, which we'll be talking about later,
Yep.
I believe their official rules committee can even weigh in on that there. I think that they're on the page too.
Yeah. Now, also, if you do have an issue on the field where, two things happen, two spells conflicted, and you're not sure what to do, GMRs often help with reaving. That is being the referee, to make that very clear. A reeve is just a ref. And you find that person, they usually have something that denotes them.
A golden sash or a big stick.
Yeah, I'm a big fan. The stabs are becoming a thing here lately. They're not totally everywhere yet, but they're becoming more popular. But if there is a weird clarification that you need, find that guy or girl or person and ask them what they think. They're going to make the final ruling right there on the field, and that's going to be what applies. That's
the other thing that we GMRs do is we organize the Guild of Reeves, hence the term Guild Master of Reeves. And so we're in charge of organizing Reeves tests, education on the rules of play, and helping get together Reeves for battle games and tournaments and other things like that.
Correct. Reeves tests, by the way, are one of those things. It is a test. It is a requirement that you pass a Reeves test. to become an officer in almost any elected position. I can't think of a single elected position where you don't have to pass one.
I can't either.
I mean, maybe some BOD positions, but like I feel like that's just because they didn't think about it.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you want to become an officer, you'll need to take one of those tests, and you'll need to find a GMR to do so.
Basically, you have to prove that you know the rules of the game before you are put into a position where you may be asked to administer the rules of the game.
Yep. Now, Kingdom Prime Minister. I'm going to leave that one to you guys, and I'm going to go somewhere else while you guys talk about this.
Man, if Vidalia was here, she'd be really good to talk about.
Vidalia
the
is my fiance. She runs the WAP part of the podcast. She is currently the Prime Minister of Winter's Edge. If she was here, she could tell us all about it. Teflon, do you want to take a shot at that?
If only I knew. That's one of the few kingdom level offices that I haven't held.
I want to smack you in your big bald head.
That's actually true. Teflon has never held the position of Prime Minister.
Is it because he's smart, or do you just think he hasn't thought of it yet?
No, I don't think he wants to.
Oh, yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Okay, so as dropping the facade for a moment, as the actual KPM of Winter's Edge, why don't you give us a full listing of all of your responsibilities?
All of them?
The fuck did I just say?
The primary thing that the Kingdom Prime Minister does is, at least in our kingdom, we serve as the Chief Financial Officer.
I'm okay.
He almost fell straight back.
These chairs don't have a lock thing, so I leaned back and it just kept going. So anyway, I'm fine.
Our very nice chairs that we stole from our office are I'm not going to lean back because my fat ass won't stop.
It's been a long day.
So the Kingdom Prime Minister does a lot of things. Most importantly, they are a mirror of their counterpart on the local level, but on a grander scheme. They take care of the finances for the kingdom. If your kingdom is one of the kingdoms that taxes their providences so that the kingdom can have big, cool, fun events, then they also collect the taxes from the local. They do a lot of communication with the local prime ministers because when voting is done, the prime minister is the one that handles all of the voting, except for the voting for the prime minister and GMR.
We did not talk about voting or all things. We did a little bit in the last episode. We'll need to double back and handle that as well.
Okay. So they are handling all of the voting, which means that they're talking with the local prime ministers, and when you vote, they get all of those votes and tally all of them together. They also are responsible for giving financial reports to the board. Again, this depends on your kingdom. I'm referring specifically to the Kingdom of Winter's Edge right now. But to make sure that everything is on the up and up, you are required to give a financial report to the Kingdom Board of Directors, which we'll be talking about here shortly, ever so often. And if we have any extra money, which would be great, that hasn't happened up to this point, then you need to explain where it came from. If there's any money that's not there, you need to explain where it went, that sort of thing. It's just basic, checking to make sure that everybody's still above board.
And aside from finances, they also are responsible for a lot of the other record keeping. They will do the Kingdom Award records, where they enter that into the ORC, which is the online record keeper. They also enter in kingdom level attendance.
You also have done a few things, and in a lot of cases, the Prime Minister will serve a seat on the Board of Directors, which we'll talk about in a moment.
Yep.
You handle a lot of the finances. You also have to, or at least you had to, file our NPO status.
Yeah.
That may not always be the case for your Prime Minister. I think we have put that on our Treasurer of the Board of Directors.
Yes.
It should be on the Board of Directors.
Yeah.
For every
taxes
kingdom.
Sometimes.
Yeah.
Yeah, if your kingdom, by the way, if your kingdom in the United States makes enough money that you're having to pay taxes on it, I would first like to say congratulations. Second, I want to know how you're doing it, because you have to surpass a large amount of money as a 501c3 MPO, which is what most of Amtgard falls under.
Yep.
In order to have to pay taxes on it. But you at least have to go and file your taxes, which for Winter's Edge at least has been filing, turning in the total amount that we made, and then they come back immediately and go, oh, no, you shouldn't be paying taxes.
Hi, I see, you're poor.
Yeah.
Okay. So with Prime Minister, again, serving a seat on the Board of Directors, that takes us to Kingdom Level Regent. Now, Kingdom Level Regent is going to be a bit different than your local park level regent. At least in Winter's Edge, the Regent is in charge of booking event sites. They are also in charge of, I believe, assembling the team that runs those events if they don't run it directly. So that's going to be the person that finds your feast crat. That's going to be the person that finds a war crat if the champion's not doing it. Any crat positions that are happening at that event, the Regent should be finding someone to fill that spot.
Of course, I know, but have you explained what a crat is?
No, this was going to come up in the miscellaneous bit, and same thing where I'm pushing the board of directors off as well. We will talk about crats.
Excellent.
Yeah. It's in the outline. See it?
No, I'm illiterate.
Yeah, I actually can't see that for you.
We forgot. Yeah, Jeff is illiterate. He never learned to read. I'm sorry, Jeff.
What are some other facts about Jeff that we don't know?
Let's see. Huge jerk.
Allergic to sunflower seeds.
Allergic to sunflower seeds. Yeah. Wait, hold on. Is that true?
No.
Okay.
Yeah, it's actually he's part vampire, so it's not just the sunflower seeds; it's just the sun part of the sunflowers.
I prefer the term dampier. It's a half vampire.
I know for a fact that Jeff hates Stargate.
Oh yeah, despises
favorite show. He talks about how he hates it all the time. Does not like board games. Not a big fan.
Yeah, no.
Terrible at League of Legends.
Yeah, really despises Dungeons and Dragons. Just hates people that play
Hates
Dungeons
it
and
entirely.
Dragons.
Yeah.
Is this just a roast, Jeff? Now that he's not
You guys
here.
did this.
Now that I am right
did this
here.
to me, right?
He could have been here.
You guys did this to me when I was gone, right? This is the
You
thing that
mean you
happened.
didn't
You didn't
watch?
listen to the episode?
Of course, I listened to them. This is a studio audience that may not have heard. Anyways, moving on.
Okay, Regent. So ignoring the crap positions in the BOD for right now, we will get to those. The Regent is in charge of really the biggest part behind making your event happen. If you liked the campsite, if you had great cabin accommodations, if you had an awesome spot for your ditch field and you had a great vendor row, thank you, Regent, because they're the person making that happen.
Other things that they do, they coordinate with the monarch to give out awards at court. One of the things that's going to happen on your kingdom level, this happens on local level as well, but it's, of course, a little bit bigger on kingdom level because kingdom level is a little bigger, is you're going to have court at your events. So usually 4 main events at least. That is 2 coronations. That is when the monarch and the regent and the champion come in.
And now we know you didn't listen to the last episode because that's exactly what we talked about in it.
Yeah, I'm recapping. And then your 2 mid-reigns where your prime minister and your GMR will come in. And again, this depends on your kingdom. Different kingdoms handle this in different ways.
Yeah. I was going to say something.
So they are going to work with the monarch to hand out awards at court. They are also going to be the one that runs your kingdom level ANS tournaments.
That's your Dragon Master, for instance.
Yeah. They are still in charge of promoting the arts and sciences within your kingdom. Although it is typically better handled at a local level because the kingdom level regent can't necessarily have a craft night for everybody in the kingdom. But lately, and especially during COVID, the kingdom regents are the ones responsible for a lot of the online ANS competitions.
Mm-hmm.
And there's multiple ones that have come about during COVID. There's the Best of the Best tournament. We have the Kingdom Showcase, the People's Choice tournaments. We recently had a 5 and under tournament, at least in Winter's Edge.
I could have participated in that.
I don't know. Well, no, you got Smiths. Yeah. Okay.
But yeah, so this is one of those positions too, and I meant to mention this with GMR and Champion, that you can see some really cool outreach in the online community as well. So we have had regents, for example, that would do, Wii points or Wii bucks or something like that, and would do cool things where it's like, hey, make a cool thing or try out a new ANS that you've never done before and post it up and tell us what you thought. And it's about growing the culture. Right?
I know that Wii bucks are Winter's Edge dollars or Winter's Edge bucks, but I imagine they were tiny Irish monies.
It's a Wii buck.
I'm so tired, you guys.
We had a fighter practice today, so all of us came from fighter practice.
4 hours.
Changed out of our horrible, smelly, sweaty clothes.
I didn't.
You guys changed?
I did.
I'm ripe.
I don't have a sense of smell. I don't know if the audience knows that. So,
Please don't.
So that's going to be what the kingdom level region is going to handle. Does that put us on to Monarch?
That puts us on to Monarch. Okay, so...
Sorry, I've never been Monarch.
Yeah, motherfucker. Okay, Kingdom level Monarch is very similar to local Monarch, except we have a capital M in our title. Typically, the Monarch is going to try to organize all of the people working with them, the regent, everyone else, try to keep things running. They are in charge of handing out the awards, the high-level awards, the knightings, things like that. And that is the funnest parts of the job, is being the big guy with the big hat in the room. Typically, if you're doing things correctly, people won't really notice you've done anything at all. But what you're also doing in the meantime, you are handling all of the communications with the wider Amtgard structure, which we're about to talk about. So you are interacting with the Amtgard International Board of Directors. You are part of the Amtgard International Circle of Monarchs. Once every year, those monarchs will gather and meet at the Gathering of the Crowns. You may hear it called Gathering of the Clans. We are working on moving away from that name because the connotation is bad.
You got to remember the game's been around since 1981 or 2.
Yeah. So anyway, Gathering of the Crowns. We're going to meet there. We discuss any of the big sweeping changes to our game. So I can tell you, when I served as Monarch, some of the changes coming up were potentially adding a 5th Knight's Belt to the game. That's a huge change.
Opening up Paladin and Anti-Paladin.
Yeah, opening Paladin and Anti-Paladin to all players and not just Knights. There were some rules clarifications. If you want to become a new kingdom, and you have the numbers and everything to do that, the Amtgard International Circle of Monarchs votes on that. And your kingdom level monarch is one of those people. This is very much the same as like elected representatives in the U.S., where you vote for that person and you trust that they're going to vote in your interests at a larger scale. Mm-hmm. Unlike how it works in the U.S., it usually works a lot better in Amtgard.
Yeah. Because we can fire your ass.
Yeah, it's very... And also, your term is only 6 months in most cases. Some kingdoms have a year, but either way. The kingdom level monarch, beyond that, has a lot of things they can choose to do. But by and large, they're running the day-to-day parts of the kingdom, and they're taking responsibility and ownership if things go wrong or if there are issues or anything like that. Kingdom level monarchs also hand out the biggest bans. Now, that is a team decision. The monarch cannot just unilaterally hand out a ban. They have to consult with their regent. They have to consult with their prime minister and their guild master of reeves. So in a nutshell, that's what the monarch does. They can do a lot of other things. But it ultimately depends on what the job calls for. It can be extremely time-consuming or not very time-consuming at all, just depending on how you choose to play it.
It's important to note, too, that in some kingdoms they have what is called a Senate position, which separates out dealing with Amtgard International. So your senator would be a separate elected position that would report to Amtgard International Board of Directors, would go to clan for you as well. Yep.
Crown. Gathering of the Crowns.
Gathering of the Crowns. I'm old.
They go to clan rally.
Go to clan rally. And I tell you what. And would also be your official seat on the Circle of Monarchs. So where we talked about your kingdom level Circle of Monarchs being a cool thing where they can help decide on things for your kingdom and communicate and say, hey, we're going to go over to your park and let all of your people know. The Circle of Monarchs on the national scale, on the kingdom level, is an extremely important entity that helps make rules changes, that helps clarify things for our game. It is, I believe, outside of the Amtgard International Board of Directors, it is the most powerful entity in the game.
Correct. And in many cases, actually, it is the most powerful entity in the game.
Yeah, it is.
Because as the Circle of Monarchs, we can choose to fire the Board of Directors or any of its members at any time.
Yeah, well, there you go.
So, yeah, it is the de facto most powerful part of our game. So the biggest changes get made by them. The biggest decisions, the biggest awards, all come from that person. And beyond that, it's organizing things behind the scenes, Usually the day-to-day, the mundanity of the job is just putting out 1,000 small fires in the background.
For Monarch, right? Not Senator.
Yeah, for Monarch, not Senator.
Senator just puts out one huge fire over the course of their 6 month to 1 year term.
Yeah, you just throw them under the big bus. But monarchy can do, or monarchs, I should say, can do a lot depending on what the job calls for.
Yep.
Beyond that, it's a very flexible position.
Monarchs, speaking on the Circle of Monarchs, they also are head of the table basically at your kingdom level Circle of Monarchs.
This is correct, yeah.
So that's one more thing they have to do on their plate.
And I think that we mentioned this when we were talking about Regent, but they also hand out awards at court. They're a big part of that. They usually lead your court.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And depending on how your kingdom chooses to do it, it can be more like role play or less. I've been to kingdoms where the monarch actually has a captain of the guard and a full guard that escort them in. And I've been to a kingdom coronation where the monarch was brought in on a palanquin and people were like carrying it. The thing. So
that would be so cool. I'm too fat for that, but like that would be so cool.
And then I've also been to one where, about 20 minutes in, somebody wandered up and was like, "Hey, I'm your new king. Thanks for voting for me.
Yeah,
peace."
Man,
and then walked out.
Do it. That's like if Matthew McConaughey was your king.
All right.
So with the basic positions out of the way, let's talk about a kingdom level board of directors. Do note that you won't have a board of directors. As so far, all of these positions have been shared by local park level and kingdom level. Your local park will not have a board of directors. You typically won't need one. Your kingdom will have a board of directors. This is usually made up of, 7 people plus an alternate?
It depends on the kingdom. We modeled ours.
The monarch also has a seat on the board of directors. Yeah. Sorry.
We modeled ours after Neverwinter, which is the kingdom that we came from. They have 7 people on their board plus an alternate. The alternate is whomever served monarch before the last person that is currently on the board as the monarch. And on ours, we have 2 guaranteed seats. That is the monarch and the prime minister, and then 5 elected seats that hold the office for 1 year. Your kingdom will be different than this, very likely, because again, the kingdoms have the freedom to set up their board as they choose.
Yep. Now, the board of directors, their job exclusively is handling the mundane matters as they pertain to your Amtgard kingdom. So, in a absolute, catastrophic worst case scenario, a lawsuit comes up against your kingdom. The board of directors are the people that are going to handle that. They're going to find the money. Or raise the money or whatever they have to do to hire a lawyer. And then on the other side of things, during COVID, I know a lot of boards of directors were specifically taking charge of shutting their kingdoms down to keep things safe.
Yeah, we have to follow mundane law, and the board is there to make sure that we do that. So other things that they would do is, if I was regent right now and I had found a really cool park, you have to sign a contract to secure that site. Well, I can't sign that contract without the board of directors' direct permission in some kingdoms, or in some cases, it must be the board of directors that signs it.
Right. With the thinking being, I can't make a legal decision like entering into a contract on behalf of my kingdom.
So, yeah, easiest way to think about the board is any kind of legal matter that you are, keep in mind that the headspace that we're in right now is we are a entity, a 501c3 nonprofit corporate entity. If you have to make a decision for that entity, your board of directors is handling that. Yep. They have a lot more mundane tasks too, but I think in a nutshell that really wraps up what they do.
There will be a number of positions like treasurer and president and whatever else. Your board may be constructed differently. This varies pretty wildly from kingdom to kingdom. But any of the non-Amtgard stuff that may happen to your kingdom is going to be handled by the board of directors. Mm-hmm. Now, we can take that up a scale and talk about the Amtgard International Board of Directors. If we're talking about each step up, that's the next step up. Amtgard International's Board of Directors is a pretty specific group. It was, at least for a long time, it was the Burning Lands Board of Directors, although now that position has been opened up to the entirety of Amtgard. These are the people, again, it's a very similar position. They're going to handle all of the legal issues, but this is for Amtgard as a whole. For a lot of you who may not know, especially if you're new, Amtgard recently went through a trademark dispute.
We did, yeah.
Where somebody else, I don't know all the facts of the scenario. I don't even know the person, that it was involving, but somebody claimed that they own the trademark to Amtgard. And I don't believe, clearly that wasn't the case. I think we won that trademark dispute.
We did, yeah.
But we had to fight to call ourselves Amtgard. And that wasn't something that we had a bunch of volunteers, hey, you volunteered, you go do the thing. We appointed the board of directors to handle this for us. So again, a legal issue, but this is something that the higher level international board of directors has to deal with. Also, all new kingdoms sign contracts with the Amtgard International Board of Directors.
They handle things too, like if there are any contracts that are being rewritten on a game level. So not contracts for your kingdom, not the contract that if you're starting up a new park, once you've been approved by AI that you may sign with your kingdom. They're the ones that you sign that initial contract with. The contract that you put on file with Amtgard International Board of Directors is what first denotes that you are actually playing the game of Amtgard. As a group, not as an individual person, but as a group.
One other thing that the board of directors will do, and technically a kingdom level BOD could do this as well, although they don't usually. But one thing that the Amtgard International Board of Directors does do is they dispatch new positions to handle new roles. So, for example, Amtgard International has a human resources director. That person is appointed by the Amtgard International Board of Directors. We have a marketing person for Amtgard International. That person is hired and appointed by the Amtgard International Board of Directors. So they, in addition to handling legal things, they also handle the mundane things like marketing our game or, having people manage, each other, human resources, managing these interpersonal things. And in a lot of cases, they will dispatch committees to, investigate stuff. If something does happen and it needs a third party, a thorough, unbiased outside source, they'll dispatch for someone to do that as well.
Yeah, we forgot to mention that, but all board of directors can appoint...
Depending on your kingdom's corpora...
Your board of directors...
your BOD's bylaws.
Yeah, depending on your kingdom's corpora and your BOD's bylaws, one of the things that many of them can do is appoint committees. So, if your corpora needed a rewrite, they may appoint a committee for that. And the same thing goes for Amtgard International Board of Directors. I believe they're the ones that appointed the committee for our rulebook rewrite that we're doing right now. Which we had that guy on the show. What is his name? Oh, God.
Aaron M. Fate's Hand.
Yeah, thank you. Yep. I really remembered your name. I was just checking to see if Cabbage knew it. But yeah, so it is also a very important role. And because we talked about this on a local level, I want to kind of bring this back to how this is going to affect you as just a person coming out. And the answer, similar to the one for the local level, is it won't. You probably won't know any of these people. They probably won't be at your park, and you probably won't interact with any of them in any meaningful way. If you choose to move into one of the higher positions, either a board of directors for your kingdom or the monarch, or if your kingdom has it, the senator, then you will very likely begin getting to know some of these people and interacting with them more directly. But beyond that, they don't really affect the way that you play the game of Amtgard on a weekly basis in any way. Right.
This information is more because you may hear these terms being thrown around at your local park, and it's important to know what people are talking about, and you can decide for yourself whether or not you care.
Yep.
For AIBOD, it's certainly worth caring about, but it's a bit thick to get into without sort of knowing how everything feeds up to that. Now, the Amtgard International Board of Directors was not the last bit in this line, and it's because of something we mentioned earlier. Mm-hmm. The AIBOD is essentially appointed by and takes all of its orders from the Amtgard International Circle of Monarchs. And that is the sort of highest tier. Again, we're sort of splitting the levels here. The Amtgard International Circle of Monarchs is all of the appointed kingdom-level monarchs of Amtgard. They come together, they make those big decisions. They direct the Amtgard International Board of Directors on what they need to be doing.
And I believe there's, at the time of this recording, there's 22 or 23?
I believe 23.
23.
I helped vote some of those kingdoms in, so I should really know the number. I believe it's 23.
We'll go with 23. If we got it wrong, correct us in the comments.
Yep. Now, we've pushed this one off for a while as well, CRAT positions. I'll start off by saying there are no fixed CRAT positions. There are some kingdoms that have a vibe CRAT, which I think is absolutely awesome.
What do you do as the vibe CRAT?
You check the vibes.
Oh.
Yeah.
I would have been kicked out of a lot of events.
Vibe check.
Yeah, so vibe check, passes checkpoint to continue. But most events will have, and we touched on these before, a Warcrat, person in charge of the battle games. Usually that's Kingdom level champion. A Feastcrat, that's the person in charge of all the big meals. And sometimes that person will appoint people beneath them to handle different meals. You know, you're doing this household is doing breakfast. This
Fighting
household
company is doing lunch,
exactly.
whatever.
Triad brunch would be fucking wonderful.
We call it trunch.
Trunch. Oh god, it just sounds
Trunch
like it's gonna
sounds like a foot infection.
Yeah, I was gonna say it sounds like it's gonna be like covered in Dorito dust. Whatever it happens to be, Trunch is covered in Dorito dust.
If it's covered in Dorito dust, it means that Hosh was helping make whatever it is. And Hosh, thank you so much for all of the work that you put in.
Team player. In a lot of kingdoms now, this is becoming a new thing. But you will have a we call it a poppet crat, but essentially somebody who is helping take care of kids during the day. You know, if you're volunteering at the event and you need to drop your kids off, Poppet Crat's going to handle that. Gate Crat, they're going to handle checking in all of the visitors, all of the people coming, handling the money. And then, of course, over that, you have the main Autocrat of the event. And again, that's usually your regent.
In our kingdom, anyways, your Kapoor may be different. We really don't want to add all of these caveats, but we mentioned that there's 23 kingdoms, and that means there's 23 different Kapooras. There shouldn't be. And so what we were discussing is how things are handled here in Winter's Edge specifically.
Yeah. So when you hear X Crat, it should usually kind of say what it does on the tin. So, you know, again, these Crat positions are not fixed. You'll have some that occur at every event, but there are unique ones that come up. So you can take Crat and just assume that means person in charge of that thing. Feast Crat, person in charge of feasts. War Crat, person in charge of war.
Cleanup Crat.
Cleanup Crat
is one that we get a lot. Yeah.
Person in charge of cleanup.
Yep.
So in general, when you hear somebody say, "Oh, the blah Crat for that event was amazing. I love them," that's what they're talking about. Now, knowing what these positions are, and we sort of alluded to this as well. What can you do to help? As a newbie, you know, you're not expected to jump in and start helping with things right away. The best thing you can do is put your feedback in the right place. I joked about this before, but when I was Kingdom level Monarch, I had people coming to me going, "Hey, where can I download the rulebook?" And I'm like, because I don't have a million other things to be doing right now, bud. It's right here, you know, and no offense to those people, but I was the absolute wrong person to run that to. You know, that's like somebody going to your work and talking directly to your supervisor without ever talking to you. It's like, what do I do here?
Yeah. You call Comcast and get the president
CEO,
of the company. And it's like, I don't understand my bill.
Yeah, my bill's confusing. Like, what am I doing here? So, as a newbie, I think the most helpful, and we can all have opinions on this. This is not something I've written down. As a newbie, I think the most helpful thing that you can do is put your feedback in the right places. If you want to give an award, you go to the regent and you talk to them about it. Or you go to the monarch and you talk to them about it at the appropriate level. If you want to help with battle games, you talk to the champion. If you want to volunteer for a kingdom level event, if you think, hey, this sounds really cool, I want to get in the kitchen for the next thing, you talk to the kingdom level regent. They'll probably be looking for volunteers.
And if you don't know who that is, don't be afraid to just post and say, "Hey, I'd like to volunteer in the kitchen at the next event. Who do I talk to?" You may be so new that you don't know who all of these people are, and that's okay too.
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess let's do a round table here. I did my thing, but as a newbie, what is the best thing you can do to help? Oh yeah.
Me?
You're the newest person here.
Yeah, Jeff.
That's right. I'm Jeff, and I'm the newest person here. Little known fact, Jeff has only been in the game for about 2.5 years.
Yep.
Didn't know that. Man, he's done well.
Crat positions, I forgot to mention. These will also be there. Medicrat.
Yeah.
In charge of medical stuff. Security Crat, often tied up with Medicrat, but again, making sure things are secure. If you have like a dry site policy, they'll be making sure you don't have booze. Okay, now, what's the most important thing you can do as a new player? I bought you some time.
Okay, the most important thing you can do as a new player...
or maybe how can you help?
How can you help?
Yeah.
I personally was really interested in leadership roles, and so I immediately dove into the deep end and just ran for Monarch as soon as I was able to. And then after that, I realized that there were also assistant roles, which we didn't talk about at all at Kingdom level. But that's your scribe.
We mentioned that they exist, but it depends on your Kapora. That's about as far as we can really go.
Your scribe, your regent's apprentice, your captain of the guard, those sorts of things. Most of those roles are often empty, at least in our kingdom, and they'll be more than happy to get any sort of volunteers for those roles, and they'll tell you what to do. So.
Yeah, and if you're interested in learning how those positions work, again, that's why those roles exist in a lot of cases.
Oh, is it my turn now?
It's your turn.
So, the absolute most important thing that you can do as a new person who is wanting to help is just go have fun. Do whatever you think is fun. Cabbage mentioned this earlier, and I think Vidalia did as well, but you're under no obligation to do any of this cratting stuff or anything like that. I had been in the game for a number of years before I moved into starting to help in any capacity like that. And I did it because I had seen some people that did an amazing job. And I wanted to help new people that were coming into the game have as much fun as I did when I was that new person. Beyond that, if you would like to help, just ask. If you have a little bit of medical training, even if it's just something like, hey, I went through a CPR and first aid class, let your Medicrat know. They'll appreciate it. They can always use help like that.
Yep.
If you don't mind taking a break in between a couple of battle games to go grab some water and work on a gate shift, go talk to your gatecrat. Yep. And again, if you don't know who any of these people are, if you don't know what the crat positions are going to be available, then go and ask whomever in...
The regent.
Yeah, whomever in your kingdom is in charge of it. If you're in Winter's Edge, it would be our regent. And if you don't know who that is, then ask on the page. You know, hey, I want to help with this. Who do I go to?
Yeah.
Because we will be able to direct you to where you want to go. But I still say that the absolute best thing that you can do when you're starting out is just go have fun. If you find some of these other things fun, then work yourself into them. We always want to help.
Also, if you had fun, make sure to tell them and thank them, because that is the spark that keeps us going.
Yeah, again, volunteers, treat them with respect, give them your feedback. So I actually have 2 points I want to bring up here. One, Flo has said several times, you don't even have to know who the position is. You can just ask on your Kingdom's page. That's absolutely true. Technically, you don't have to listen to this at all. If you want to go on your Kingdom's page and just start asking questions, you're more than welcome to.
Yep.
If you are nervous about doing that, or if you want to come at it from a more educated point of view, that's why this exists. So you can know, hey, I need to know who the regent is. I want to volunteer for a crap position. And even just that little bit might make you feel a little more confident in asking. The second thing, I'm not done. Put the finger away.
I was going to say, if you want to know who your regent is specifically, or if you want to look at the Facebook group, there's often pinned announcements up at the top that will give you this information.
In a lot of cases, yes.
And also, if you go to the orc and click on your Kingdom's page, it will tell you, right underneath the heraldry, which officers are which.
It should, yes. We've not spent any time on the orc, so we're not going to explain it now. We'll address that in a future episode. I'll have to add that to the outline. But the other thing I was going to say is, as a new player, this is one of the first questions we asked you on your episode of the podcast forever ago. Don't be shy about giving your feedback. Vidalia touched on this a little bit. If you like something, give them that compliment. But even if you have feedback that is not totally positive, feel free to share it. One of the things that happens to us, all of us, as we spend more time in the game, is we get a little bit jaded. And it's often really refreshing to have somebody with those, I've called them before, newbie goggles, to give us your perspective. Because you might notice something and say, this is really weird. I don't understand why it's done this way. And all of us people who have been here forever go, well, it's always been done that way. I don't know what you're talking about. And we never even think about it. And so it takes somebody asking that question, hey, why is this done that way? Hey, why is there not a crap position for vibes? And we look around and we go, why is there not a vibe crap? And then change gets made. So don't think that as a new player, you can't make a change. You absolutely can, and sharing that feedback and sharing that perspective is really key to doing that.
Yeah, and again, if you don't know who to share the feedback with, then just ask. Hey, I have some feedback from the event. Who would I share that with? I meant to mention this as well, too, but if you're not comfortable going and asking on a National Kingdom page, too, you can always ask one of your local officers. They will very likely know whomever is running the stage on the kingdom level too.
Yeah, so if nothing else, know who your local park officers are, because they can at least help get that information passed up the chain. This is true for most things. If you have something you want passed up or addressed, you can tell your local level monarch. If they can't deal with it, they'll talk to the circle of monarchs. They might pass that up to the kingdom level monarch, and so on. But whatever feedback it is that you have, as long as you can share it without being a total dick about it, you should feel more than confident in doing so. That feedback is not only welcomed, it's essential.
Yeah, if you didn't have fun with something, good chance that other people didn't have fun with something. And the whole point of us getting together and doing these things is so all of us can have fun. So if something happened, we need to know about it. We want to know about it because we want to make this fun for everyone. If it's fun for everyone, we get more people. And more people equals more fun in Amtgard.
Yeah, absolutely. Now, the last bit I have on the outline here, and we are actually approaching time for this episode, so I don't think we'll get into the why Amtgard bit. That'll be for next time. But I want to talk about, if you are a more experienced player, you've played for a couple of months and you've just never bothered to learn it, so you're listening to this and finally figuring out what all those positions are. But you've played for a while, you've had a lot of fun, and you want to know how you can give back or how you can help. Again, we'll do a round robin, but I think we're all going to have some variation of this, and that is volunteer. Mm-hmm. This game is nothing if not for its volunteers. They make the game happen. Whether or not you like them, they are volunteering to do a job that no one else volunteered to do, or no one else could beat them in an election to do. So if you see a change that you want to be made, that you want made that isn't getting made, you can volunteer. You can be the guy that makes that change. If you see someone needing help, volunteer, give back, some of the fun that was given to you when you started out. That's really essential for making this game what it is. I mean, we don't do an Amtgard podcast once a week because it's making us a ton of money and we can quit our day jobs. In fact, it's quite the opposite. We do it because we love the game.
Yep, absolutely.
It's your turn.
If you want to help, go be a scribe. The KPM is drowning.
That's fair. Again, a variation on that, volunteer. Flo?
If you have been in the game for a couple months to a couple of years now and never really thought about doing anything other than just having fun in battle games, and you finally decided you want to step into it, start on a local level. Don't try to jump into kingdom level office immediately, and I say that for a few reasons. I have seen so many people that decided that they wanted to help, had great ideas, and jumped into a kingdom level office, but they weren't able to win an election because no one knew who they were. Keep in mind that whether fair or not, elections often come down to popularity contests. It can be on the merit of your ideas as well, but is not always on the merit of your ideas. That's not an Amtgard problem. That's just a people problem. So I'm actually going to use the two jokers sitting here to the right of me as an example.
It's left on the camera, but
is it left? Well, sitting this way.
It's great for our audio only listeners.
Yeah, right. They started on the local level, and they literally started doing things that they thought was fun, and that by polling the rest of the park also thought was fun. That did a couple of things. First, everyone having more fun meant that they talked more about it. People talking more about it meant that they got their friends to come out, and those friends talked about it. We went from a park of roughly 5 to 9 people per week up to a park that, when it's not 100 billion degrees outside, is above 20 or 25 every single.
We're pushing Dutchy numbers for sure.
Yeah, I mean we're starting to get up there. Now, our numbers have dropped somewhat because I don't know how it is for all of you listening, but we are in East Tennessee, so every hurricane and monsoon that hits the lower states comes
so wet all the time,
straight up this way. Any of the heat waves that come from the Midwest, guess what? Straight down our state and into the valley that is the East Tennessee Valley, and it just sits here. So we end up with a lot of hot, humid weather this time of year.
But in exchange, we get Dolly Parton. So
we do. She is a treasure.
We're coming out on top.
But yeah, so refocusing, that is my advice, is start on that local level, see where you can help there. When you go to kingdom level, be ready to step in a position where you are just helping a Krat. So don't expect to go straight to Feastocrat. Expect to go to the Feastocrat and say, I want to help you make dinner. I want to help you make feast, or I want to help you with breakfast, or something like that. Not because you're not capable. I mean, you could be a professional chef, and you still may not.
Yeah, and you may get stuck with vegetable cutting, dude.
Yeah, and you may get stuck on the vegetable station simply because trust is earned in our game. Again, we're a lot of volunteers, and we don't know you. So it's not a personal insult or anything like that. It's just that we need to get to know who you are and what you can do. And you need to build a reputation of trust and respect among your peers in the game. So if you lose an election, don't take it personally. I have lost countless elections since I joined the game 21 years ago.
It's literally countless. He doesn't know how to count.
Yeah, I have lost count. So none of these things are personal slights against you if you don't get picked for a position or something like that. It does not mean they do not want your help. It means that whomever, when they were picking the Krat positions for that event, the other person had a bigger level of trust with whomever the autocrat was at that time in that place. That's all it means.
Yeah.
So please still go help, do your things. That was my bit.
Yeah. You build your foundation brick by brick.
Yep.
If you lose an election, you can go be scribe.
No, I wouldn't do that.
You should do that. If
should
nothing
be a
else,
scribe.
it helps build up your... I know Teflon hates when I say this word. It helps build up your bona fides.
Yeah. Those are what you give to your pet dog, bona fides.
Oh, my God.
Bona fide.
No, we're not in Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? That's not how it's said. So with all of that out of the way, I think this addresses the who of Amtgard. There's one person we didn't address, or one role we didn't address. We've talked about it a lot. But the other person that makes up Amtgard. So all of those leadership positions, they're great. Then the rest of Amtgard, and by far the vast majority of Amtgard, is you. And by you, I mean you listening to this podcast. I mean the people at your park. I mean us three. Really, all of the people who come out and play, or who come out to park and add color to the park by, wearing garb, maybe not even fighting. All of those people. Now, what they do and what you do and what we do are all going to vary pretty considerably. So we can't say specifically what your role is. We can only talk about the assigned roles within Amtgard, but everything that people do, we've talked with a ton of awesome people throughout this podcast that did things that they weren't necessarily elected to do. You look at Regan, and he got a flame belt by serving a million different roles. Mm-hmm. And playing a million different characters to further events and make them awesome and make them what they are. You can be that person. You can be like Regan. You can roleplay an awesome character at events. You can be the best NPC and do amazing stuff. Nobody has to elect you to do that. So if you want to give back in that way as well, you don't have to run for office. You don't have to have a popularity contest. You don't have to be particularly good at it. You just have to be willing to try. Yep. And then, to use someone else from Neverwinter, who is in our belt line as well, you also have someone like Robin, Squire, who went to much more. It is Sir Squire is her name. Had a much more traditional thing. She served in a lot of offices. She did a great job at them. She is excellent at organization. She does all of these things. If you have any of these skill sets, then that's a path for you as well. There's not just one way to accomplish your goal. Another example, since we're pulling these out of the hat, a recent episode that you did with the WAP crew, Lady Lightning. Mm-hmm. Again, not elected to anything, but they're doing amazing data analytics for all of Amtgard. They're pushing the bounds of what we know with their data collection and their analysis. And again, that's hugely important. Mm-hmm. Never elected to do that. Nobody ever said, hey, we've got to have a person for this. Let's figure out who it's going to be. They just stepped in and started doing it. They proved that they were really good at it, and we said, hey, we want you to do this. You don't have to be elected to be a scribe.
Do you want to scribe?
This is a cry for help. So with that, keep in mind, everybody's going to have a different interpretation of this game. Everybody's going to have a different way of giving back. It's not required that you do so, but it sure is nice if you'd like to. Beyond that, I hope this helps.
Yeah. Do you want to go ahead and roll us out, but since we don't have that on this particular recording, cut it in later?
Yeah, I'm going to go ahead and push a button anyway so that it looks like I'm rolling us out, because that's what we always do, and then we'll stop the recording afterwards.
Okay.
Now I've got to push the other button. Oh, you guys look like idiots. Okay, now I'm really going to roll us out. Hey everyone, thanks for listening. If you liked what you heard, be sure to subscribe to our podcast on YouTube or Spotify to get notified about new episodes. And make sure to follow us on Facebook for announcements and more.